Hi guys, the night is quiet along the Nile. The water moves slowly through the darkness, carrying soft reflections of distant stars. A warm breeze drifts over the riverbanks and slips through clusters of reeds. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once and then falls silent again. Most homes have already gone dark. Families sleep behind walls of mud brick. The day's heat has finally begun to loosen its grip on the land. The air still feels warm, but it is gentler now. Easier to breathe. Across the fields, beyond the villages, and beside the sleeping river, ancient Egypt rests. It is easy to imagine Egypt as a place of giant pyramids, shining temples, and powerful rulers. Those monuments still stand after thousands of years. Their stone walls continue to catch the sunlight just as they did long ago. But tonight, our journey moves away from kings. Instead, we will spend time with the people whose names were mostly forgotten. The workers. The farmers. The fishermen. The builders. The bakers. The servants. The scribes. The countless men, women, and children whose daily labor kept the world of ancient Egypt alive. Their lives were not filled with grand ceremonies or royal celebrations. Most mornings began before sunrise. Most days ended in exhaustion. And between those moments stretched long hours of work beneath the Egyptian sun. As the stars slowly fade from the sky, let us walk quietly into their world. The eastern horizon begins to glow. Night gives way to the pale colors of dawn. The Nile reflects soft shades of gray and silver. Birds stir among the reeds. The first sounds of movement emerge from the villages. A door opens. Sandals scrape against a stone threshold. Someone coughs. Nearby, a woman kneels beside a small grinding stone. She begins crushing grain into flour. The steady rhythm fills the morning air. Scrape. Turn. Scrape. Turn. The work begins before daylight has fully arrived. Bread is one of the most important foods in Egypt. Every household depends upon it. Preparing it takes time and effort. Grain must be harvested, dried, stored, ground, mixed, and baked. Much of this labor falls upon the members of the household, especially women and older children. The process repeats almost every day. There are no machines. Only hands. Hands pushing stones. Hands carrying baskets. Hands shaping dough. Hands tending ovens. Even before sunrise, labor has already begun. Outside the homes, more villagers wake. Some prepare for work in nearby fields. Others gather tools. The dusty roads slowly fill with movement. The air remains cool for now. Everyone knows it will not last. Within a few hours, the heat will settle across the land. For many workers, the coolest part of the day is also the most productive. A farmer steps outside his home. His tunic is simple. His sandals are worn smooth by years of walking. He eats a small meal before leaving. Perhaps bread. Perhaps onions. Perhaps a little beer made from grain. Egyptian beer is not quite the same as many modern versions. It is thicker and often contains bits of grain. It provides valuable calories for working people. The farmer finishes eating. Then he begins the walk toward the fields. Around him, others are doing the same. Groups move quietly beneath the growing light. The Nile has always been the heart of Egyptian life. Without it, much of the land would be desert. Because of the river, fields can flourish. Crops can grow. Communities can survive. For thousands of years, workers organized their lives around its rhythms. The annual flooding of the Nile brought rich soil from distant lands upstream. When the waters receded, dark fertile mud remained. Farmers planted their crops in this soil. They depended upon it completely. A successful harvest meant food. A poor harvest brought hardship. As sunlight spreads across the landscape, the fields become easier to see. Workers bend over young crops. Others guide animals through soft earth. Some repair irrigation channels that direct water where it is needed. The tasks are repetitive, often exhausting. Yet they must be done. A farmer spends much of his life following the same cycle. Planting, maintaining, harvesting, storing, then beginning again. Year after year, season after season. The routine rarely changes. The work requires patience. The Nile decides much. Humans do the rest. By mid-morning, the temperature begins to rise. Sweat gathers on foreheads. Dust sticks to skin. Workers pause occasionally for water or a brief rest, but there is always more to do. The fields stretch outward beneath the growing sun. The sounds are simple. Birds calling. Water moving through channels. Tools scraping earth. Voices speaking quietly. Far from the fields, another group of workers has already begun their day. In towns and cities, workshops are waking. Doors open. Fires are lit. Craftsmen prepare their tools. Ancient Egypt depended upon skilled labor. Many workers spent years learning specific trades. A potter, for example, might shape clay every day of his adult life. His workshop could be warm even before noon. A spinning wheel turns. Wet clay slides beneath practiced fingers. Slowly, a vessel takes shape. Perhaps it will hold grain. Perhaps oil. Perhaps water. Simple objects like these fill nearly every household. The work appears ordinary. Yet entire communities depend upon it. Nearby, a carpenter measures wood. Good timber is valuable. Egypt has limited local supplies of large trees. Many wooden materials must be carefully managed. Nothing is wasted if it can still be used. The carpenter works slowly, carefully. His tools are simple. His experience is not. Years of practice guide each movement. Wood shavings gather on the floor. Sunlight enters through a doorway. Dust drifts through the air. Outside, the town grows busier. Merchants prepare stalls. Customers arrive. Animals move through narrow streets. The smell of bread rises from ovens. Voices blend together. A city in ancient Egypt is full of work. Everywhere people carry something. A basket. A tool. A bundle of reeds. A jar of water. The movement rarely stops. Yet amid all this activity, there are also workers whose jobs involve almost no physical labor at all. These individuals belong to one of the most respected professions in Egyptian society. The scribes. A scribe spends years learning to read and write. This education is difficult. Many Egyptians never receive such training. Writing requires skill, patience, and memory. A young student may spend countless hours practicing symbols. Again and again. Day after day. Mistakes are corrected. Lessons are repeated. Slowly, knowledge grows. For those who succeed, life can be very different from that of a farmer or laborer. A scribe often works indoors. He records information. Taxes. Inventories. Messages. Official documents. The written word carries power. Governments depend upon records. Temples depend upon records. Trade depends upon records. A skilled scribe becomes an important part of society. As the sun climbs higher, one scribe sits beneath partial shade. A roll of papyrus rests before him. His brush moves steadily. Lines of symbols appear across the surface. Around him, others may wait with information that needs recording. Numbers, names, deliveries, payments. The work demands concentration. Mistakes can create problems. The scribe works carefully, patiently. His day passes through words rather than physical labor. Meanwhile, countless others continue their work beneath the growing heat. The builders feel the temperature most of all. Ancient Egypt is famous for monumental construction. Temples, walls, tombs, storehouses, homes. All require labor. Large projects employ enormous numbers of workers. Some quarry stone. Some transport materials. Some shape blocks. Some mix mud. Some haul supplies. Construction is a world of teamwork. No single worker sees the entire project. Each person performs a small part. Yet together they create structures that may survive for centuries. The work is hard. The sun is relentless. Stone is heavy. Dust fills the air. Muscles ache. Hands develop calluses. Yet construction sites remain busy from morning until evening. At midday, workers search for shade. Even a small patch offers relief. They sit together. They eat simple meals. Bread. Vegetables. Perhaps dried fish. Water. Beer. Conversations drift lazily through the heat. Some discuss family matters. Some complain about aches and pains. Others simply enjoy a brief chance to rest. Soon enough, work resumes. The afternoon stretches ahead. Along the river itself, fishermen continue their routines. The Nile provides food for countless people. Fish are a valuable resource. Boats move quietly through the water. Nets are lowered. Lines are cast. The river glitters beneath sunlight. The fishermen understand its moods. They know where fish gather. They know how currents move. Knowledge passes between generations. Father to son. Mother to daughter. Families depend upon these skills. A successful catch brings food and trade opportunities. A poor catch means uncertainty. Life along the Nile always carries a measure of dependence upon nature. Even experienced workers cannot control everything. As afternoon slowly deepens, shadows begin to lengthen. The harshest heat gradually softens. Workers notice the change. The sun remains strong, but its edge becomes gentler. Many tasks continue. Fields still need attention. Workshops remain active. Merchants continue selling goods. Yet thoughts increasingly turn toward evening. Toward home. Toward rest. A woman returns from collecting water. The jar she carries is heavy. She balances it carefully. This task has likely been repeated thousands of times throughout her life. Water is essential. Obtaining it requires effort. Many ordinary jobs involve carrying. Carrying grain. Carrying clay. Carrying wood. Carrying water. The physical demands of daily life touch nearly everyone. Even children often contribute. Young boys may help in fields. Young girls may assist with household work. Responsibilities arrive early. Life requires cooperation. Entire families participate in labor. As sunset approaches, colors begin changing across the landscape. Gold, orange, soft red. The Nile reflects them all. The river seems almost peaceful enough to stop time itself. Workers start returning home. Dust rises from roads. Voices fill village paths. Doors open. Families gather. The evening meal is prepared. Inside homes, activity continues. Bread is baked. Vegetables are cut. Cooking fires flicker. Children talk quietly. Parents discuss the day. The smell of food drifts through the warm air. For many workers, evening offers the first true chance to relax. Muscles ache. Feet are sore. Skin feels coated with dust. Yet there is comfort in returning home. Comfort in familiar voices. Comfort in food and shelter. Outside, darkness slowly returns. The stars emerge one by one. The heat finally begins to fade. A farmer stretches tired arms. A fisherman repairs a net. A potter cleans tools. A scribe rolls up finished documents. Across Egypt, countless workers settle into the night. Their labor has filled the day. Tomorrow it will begin again. The Nile continues its quiet journey through the darkness. The villages become still. The workshops fall silent. The roads empty. Only the river keeps moving. And beneath the ancient stars, the ordinary workers of Egypt drift toward sleep, preparing for another dawn that will arrive sooner than they would like. Far away, beyond the sleeping fields, another day already waits. The darkness remains for a little while longer. A thin silver moon hangs above the Nile. Its reflection trembles gently upon the water. The river moves as it always has, patient and steady, carrying its silent current between fields, villages, and distant cities. Most people are still asleep. Inside mud-brick homes, families rest on simple mats. Some sleep beneath light linen coverings. Others lie directly on woven reed mats spread across the floor. The walls hold traces of the day's warmth, releasing it slowly into the night air. A baby stirs. Someone turns over in their sleep. A wooden door creaks softly as the breeze passes through a narrow opening. The world feels quiet. Yet before long, the first signs of another working day begin to appear. Ancient Egypt never truly stops. The routines of labor continue generation after generation, moving with the same steady rhythm as the river itself. Before sunrise, a woman wakes in a small village near the Nile. The room is dim. Only the faintest gray light enters through the doorway. She rises carefully so as not to disturb the others. Outside, the air is cooler than it will be later. For a brief moment, standing beneath the fading stars, she can enjoy the stillness. Soon enough, the day's work will begin. She gathers grain. The familiar grinding stone waits nearby. Once again, flour must be prepared. The sound is quiet at first. Stone against grain. A slow scraping motion. Back and forth. Back and forth. The task requires strength. Grinding enough flour for a household can take hours over the course of a week. Arms grow tired. Shoulders ache. Yet it is simply part of life. The bread that feeds the family begins here. Long before the oven. Long before the meal. Long before the first bite. As dawn approaches, more homes begin to wake. Thin streams of smoke rise into the morning air. Cooking fires are lit. Children rub sleep from their eyes. Older relatives move carefully through familiar routines. The village slowly comes alive. Nearby, a baker has already begun his work. His day starts earlier than most. The ovens must be prepared before the sun climbs high into the sky. The smell of baking bread soon spreads through the streets. Warm, comforting, familiar. The scent drifts past homes and workshops, mixing with the earthy smell of mud brick walls and dusty roads. Bread is everywhere in Egyptian life. Some loaves are simple. Others are shaped differently for special occasions. But nearly everyone depends upon it. A baker's hands rarely rest. Mixing, kneading, shaping, loading ovens, removing finished loaves, repeating the process again and again. The work creates heat even before the desert sun fully arrives. Sweat forms early. Flour clings to skin. Ash gathers around the ovens. Yet the baker continues. People will soon arrive. There is always demand. As sunlight spreads across the landscape, the river begins to sparkle. Fishermen prepare their boats. Some vessels are small enough for a single person. Others carry several workers. The boats slide quietly into the water. Wood creaks softly. Paddles dip beneath the surface. Ripples spread outward. The Nile is calm this morning. A fisherman knows that every day on the river is slightly different. The water level changes. Fish move. Weather shifts. Experience becomes valuable. Many fishermen learn their trade from childhood. They grow familiar with every bend in the river, every shallow area, every hidden current. Knowledge accumulates slowly, like layers of mud deposited by the Nile's flood waters. The fishermen move farther from shore. The village grows smaller behind them. Birds circle overhead. The morning remains peaceful. For now, the heat has not yet arrived. Elsewhere, farmers are already entering the fields. The earth beneath their sandals feels cool. The crops stand quietly in the early light. Some workers carry simple tools. Others guide animals. The routines are familiar. The same fields. The same paths. The same tasks. Year after year. A young boy walks beside his father. He is still learning. The older man explains when to plant, when to water, when to wait. Farming is not simply labor. It is knowledge passed between generations. Children watch. They listen. They imitate. Over time, they become workers themselves. One day, they will teach others. The cycle continues. The Nile makes farming possible. But success still depends upon effort. Water must be directed. Fields must be maintained. Storage areas must be protected. A great deal of work occurs long before crops are harvested. By mid-morning, the temperature begins rising. Workers notice the change immediately. The coolness of dawn fades. The sunlight grows brighter. The air feels heavier. Heat settles over the land. The fields shimmer beneath the sun. Many laborers wrap cloth around their heads for protection. Shade becomes precious. Even small patches are appreciated. Yet the work continues. A farmer bends to inspect young plants. Another clears debris from an irrigation channel. Others carry baskets filled with supplies. The motions become slower, more deliberate. Energy must be conserved. The Egyptian climate teaches patience. No one rushes beneath such heat. Farther north, in a busy town, another kind of work unfolds. The marketplace has become crowded. Merchants arrange goods for display. Customers move between stalls. Conversations fill the air. Not loud. Not hurried. Simply the sound of daily life. A merchant carefully examines a shipment that arrived earlier. Perhaps it contains grain. Perhaps linen. Perhaps pottery. Trade connects communities throughout Egypt. Goods move by road and river. Every item requires labor. Someone produced it. Someone transported it. Someone now offers it for exchange. The marketplace is where many of these efforts come together. Dust rises from countless footsteps. Animals pass through narrow lanes. Sunlight reflects from whitewashed walls. The smell of bread mingles with spices and fresh produce. A merchant spends much of the day speaking with customers. Measuring quantities. Checking goods. Negotiating arrangements. Patience is essential. Success depends upon trust as much as merchandise. Many relationships develop over years. People prefer familiar faces. Reliable traders. Honest dealings. A merchant's reputation travels quickly. Meanwhile, not far away, workers inside a textile workshop continue their tasks. The room is warm. Threads hang from wooden frames. Women sit together spinning fibers into thread. The motions are repetitive. Smooth. Almost rhythmic. Hands move with practiced ease. The work requires concentration. Small mistakes can affect the final cloth. Linen is one of Egypt's most important materials. Clothing depends upon it. Household items depend upon it. Temples and officials require it. The demand never disappears. Spinning thread may appear simple, yet it consumes countless hours. A single garment represents an enormous amount of labor. Many workers spend entire days focused upon this one process. The hours pass quietly. Conversation drifts through the room. Stories are shared. Advice is offered. Family matters are discussed. The work and the social life of the community often exist side by side. By noon, sunlight floods the streets outside. The town grows quieter. Many workers seek temporary shelter from the heat. Some sit beneath awnings. Others rest inside shaded courtyards. Meals are eaten slowly. Water is treasured. The afternoon can feel endless during the hottest months. Even animals move more slowly. Dogs rest in narrow shadows. Donkeys stand motionless. Birdsong becomes less frequent. The heat seems to press upon everything. Yet certain workers cannot stop. Among them are the water carriers. Their labor remains necessary regardless of temperature. A man lifts a heavy jar. The weight strains his shoulders. Step after step, he carries it through the town. Then another. Then another. The work is physically demanding. Water is life. Homes need it. Workshops need it. Construction sites need it. Without water, daily life quickly becomes difficult. The water carrier may spend years performing this task. His route becomes familiar. His muscles adapt. His body learns the rhythm. Still, the labor remains exhausting. As afternoon continues, attention turns toward one of the most respected professions in Egyptian society. A group of young students sits before an instructor. They are learning to become scribes. The room is quiet. Mistakes are corrected gently. Exercises are repeated. Writing is not easy. Hundreds of symbols must be learned. Forms must be practiced. Records must be accurate. A successful scribe often enjoys a life that is less physically demanding than many other occupations. For this reason, education is highly valued. Parents who can provide such opportunities often hope their children will pursue them. The students bend over their work. Brushes move carefully. Some struggle. Others progress more quickly. But all understand the importance of what they are learning. A skilled scribe may eventually work for a temple, a government office, a major estate. Knowledge opens doors. Outside, however, countless laborers continue relying on physical strength. Builders remain at work. Stonecutters remain at work. Farmers remain at work. The monuments that survive today required extraordinary effort from ordinary people. A large construction site is filled with movement. Workers haul materials. Supervisors monitor progress. Tools strike stone. Dust hangs in the air. The sounds become part of daily life. One laborer adjusts a rope. Another steadies a load. Another shapes a stone surface. No single task appears remarkable. Yet together they create something lasting. Years may pass before a project is completed. Workers come and go. Seasons change. The structure gradually rises. Patience is everywhere. As the afternoon slowly begins to fade, the sunlight softens. Long shadows stretch across the ground. The worst of the heat finally loosens its hold. A sense of relief spreads through the landscape. Farmers straighten tired backs. Craftsmen pause briefly. Merchants prepare for the final customers of the day. The river reflects golden light. Along its banks, children play while adults finish remaining chores. Some gather reeds. Others collect firewood. A woman washes clothing near the water. The sound of splashing joins the gentle movement of the current. Life along the Nile remains deeply connected to the river. Nearly every routine eventually leads back to it. Water, food, transportation, agriculture, trade. The river touches everything. As evening approaches, boats begin returning home. Fishermen inspect their catches. Some days are good. Others are less generous. Such uncertainty is accepted. Nature follows its own rhythm. People learn to work within it. The village paths gradually fill with returning workers. Dust rises beneath weary feet. Voices drift through the warm air. A man carries tools home. A woman balances supplies in a basket. Children run ahead of their parents. The day slowly unwinds. Inside homes, preparations for the evening meal begin once more. Cooking fires flicker. Clay pots warm over flames. Bread is shared. Vegetables are prepared. Simple meals become moments of comfort. Families gather close together. Stories are exchanged. Concerns are discussed. Plans are made for tomorrow. The work of ancient Egypt rarely belongs to individuals alone. It belongs to households, to communities, to generations. As darkness spreads across the land, the pace of life finally begins to slow. Stars emerge overhead. The Nile grows darker. The sounds of labor fade away. Workshops close. Marketplaces empty. Fields become quiet. The workers who filled the day with effort now seek rest. Their bodies are tired. Their hands are worn. Their feet ache from long hours upon stone, soil, and dusty roads. Yet tomorrow's responsibilities can wait until morning. For now, there is only the gentle night. The soft breeze from the river. The distant sound of water moving through the darkness. And beneath the endless stars of ancient Egypt, countless workers settle once more into sleep, while the Nile continues its patient journey through the silent land. The night settles softly over the Nile once again. The river glides through the darkness with the same calm motion it has followed for countless generations. Moonlight touches the surface of the water, turning gentle ripples into shifting bands of silver. Along the riverbanks, tall reeds sway quietly whenever a warm breeze drifts across the land. Most villages have fallen silent. The ovens have cooled. The workshops are dark. The crowded roads of the day now lie empty beneath the stars. Inside simple mud brick homes, workers sleep. Their days are long. Their bodies carry the memory of labor. Arms tired from lifting. Legs tired from walking. Hands rough from tools, rope, stone, wood, and earth. For many people in ancient Egypt, sleep is one of the most valuable parts of the day. Rest allows tired muscles to recover. It offers a brief escape from heat, responsibility, and endless routine. A farmer sleeps knowing that the fields still wait. A fisherman sleeps knowing that the river will still be there at dawn. A baker sleeps knowing that flour must be ground again tomorrow. The cycle never truly ends. It simply pauses for a few hours beneath the stars. Slowly, the eastern horizon begins to brighten. The darkness softens. Birds awaken among the reeds. The coolness of night lingers for a little while longer. Then another day begins. In a village not far from the river, a servant wakes before sunrise. Many households employ servants of some kind. Some work for wealthy families. Some serve officials. Others assist in temples or large estates. Their responsibilities vary from place to place. Yet one thing remains consistent. The work begins early. Very early. Before much of the household has stirred, the servant is already moving through quiet rooms. Water must be carried. Floors must be swept. Supplies must be organized. Food preparation must begin. The tasks are rarely glamorous. Most are repetitive. Many are physically demanding. Yet they are necessary. A well-run household depends upon invisible labor. Many of the people performing this labor leave few traces behind in the historical record. Their names are often lost. Their stories are rarely written. But their work fills every corner of daily life. As dawn spreads across the land, another group of workers begins moving toward the river. These are reed gatherers. The Nile produces an abundance of reeds that can be used in many ways. Boats require them. Baskets require them. Mats require them. Various household items depend upon them. The gatherers move carefully through the wetlands. Their feet sink slightly into damp ground. Morning mist hangs low over the water. The air feels fresh. For a short time, the world seems peaceful and cool. They cut reeds using simple tools. Bundle them together. Carry them toward waiting boats or carts. The work demands patience. The reeds must be selected carefully. Good materials are valuable. Nothing useful should be wasted. Nearby, the sounds of the waking river continue. Birds call overhead. Fish break the surface. Water laps gently against muddy banks. The Nile creates its own quiet music. A music that workers hear every day of their lives. Farther inland, a potter has already begun his morning. The workshop remains relatively cool. That will not last. By afternoon, the heat will settle heavily upon the building. For now, however, the conditions are pleasant. Clay waits beside a spinning wheel. The potter sits down. His hands already know what to do. Years of experience guide every movement. The wheel begins turning. A lump of clay rises beneath his fingers. Slowly. Carefully. The shape emerges. A jar. A bowl. A storage vessel. Objects that may seem ordinary. Yet every household depends upon them. Ancient Egypt is filled with handmade items. Almost everything requires a craftsperson somewhere. A vessel for grain. A lamp for light. A basket for carrying goods. A wooden stool. A woven mat. The world of everyday life is built through countless hours of skilled labor. As the sun rises higher, the workshop grows brighter. Dust drifts through shafts of light. The smell of clay fills the air. Outside, the streets become busy once more. People begin moving through the town. Merchants arrange their goods. Customers arrive. Animals carry supplies. Children run errands. The day unfolds with familiar rhythm. Among the crowd walks a man whose work depends not upon strength but upon observation. He is a tax collector. Ancient Egypt requires resources to support temples, officials, and government projects. Keeping track of those resources is an important responsibility. Records must be maintained. Harvests must be measured. Deliveries must be counted. The tax collector often works alongside scribes. Together they create written records that help manage the complex economy of the kingdom. The work requires organization, attention to detail, patience. The tax collector spends much of the day speaking with farmers, merchants, and estate managers. Numbers matter. Accuracy matters. The written record becomes a bridge between people and government. Nearby, a young scribe carefully copies information onto papyrus. His brush moves slowly. Steadily. The symbols flow across the page. Writing remains one of the most respected skills in Egyptian society. It opens opportunities unavailable to many laborers. Yet becoming a scribe is not easy. Years of practice are required. Students spend countless hours memorizing symbols and repeating exercises. Many become frustrated. Some never finish their training. Those who succeed often feel a sense of pride in their accomplishments. Their work may not involve lifting stones or plowing fields, but it demands discipline of a different kind. As the morning continues, sunlight begins reflecting strongly from walls and streets. The heat arrives earlier now. Summer approaches. Workers know what that means. Long afternoons. Hot winds. Relentless sunshine. A farmer pauses beside an irrigation channel. He watches water moving steadily through the system. Without careful management, crops can suffer. The channels must remain clear. The flow must be monitored. The fields depend upon constant attention. Agriculture is not simply a seasonal activity. There is always something that needs doing. Even during quieter periods, tools require repair. Storage areas require maintenance. Animals require care. The responsibilities never completely disappear. The farmer wipes sweat from his forehead. Then returns to work. Around him, others do the same. The fields stretch toward the horizon. Green patches stand against the surrounding desert landscape. Life and dryness exist side by side. The contrast is impossible to ignore. By midday, much of the countryside shimmers beneath the heat. The air itself seems to tremble. Workers seek whatever shade they can find. A tree. A wall. A simple shelter. Even a few moments of relief feel valuable. Meals are eaten slowly. Water is consumed carefully. Conversations become quieter. The heat encourages stillness. A group of laborers sits together beneath a shaded structure. Their clothing is dusty. Their hands are rough. One man massages a sore shoulder. Another stretches tired legs. They speak about their families, their crops, their hopes for a successful harvest. Simple concerns. Human concerns. The same kinds of concerns shared by workers throughout history. Eventually, the break ends. Work resumes. The afternoon stretches ahead. Not far away, a stonemason chips carefully at a block of limestone. Small fragments scatter around his feet. The sound repeats again and again. Tap. 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 The rhythm becomes almost hypnotic. His work requires patience. One careless strike can create problems. Stone rewards precision. The mason concentrates fully. The world narrows to the tool in his hand and the stone before him. Hours pass this way, slowly shaping something that may outlast generations. Across town, inside a busy weaving workshop, another rhythm fills the air. Threads cross one another. Wooden frames creak softly. Hands move with practiced skill. The workers know exactly how much tension each thread requires. They know how to spot imperfections. They know how to create strong, useful cloth. The work demands concentration. Yet there is also comfort in routine. Many workers have followed these same motions for years. Their hands perform tasks almost automatically. Experience becomes part of the body itself. Outside, merchants continue their daily activities. A trader examines pottery. Another negotiates for grain. Goods move from one owner to another. Business unfolds beneath awnings that provide precious shade. Trade links distant communities together. Some products travel remarkable distances before reaching their final destination. Every item carries a hidden story. Someone made it. Someone transported it. Someone sold it. Someone purchased it. Work connects everyone. As afternoon slowly fades, a welcome change begins. The sunlight softens. The temperature becomes slightly more forgiving. Long shadows return. Workers notice immediately. Energy that disappeared during the hottest hours begins to return. Tasks continue. But they feel easier now. A fisherman pulls his boat toward shore. The river glows golden beneath the lowering sun. The water reflects colors that seem almost dreamlike. Orange. Gold. Rose. Soft purple. The fisherman pauses for a moment. The day has been long. His shoulders ache. His hands are tired. Yet the beauty of the river remains. The Nile offers moments of peace amid constant labor. Many workers know these moments well. A brief pause before returning home. A few quiet breaths beside the water. A chance to watch the sunlight fade. As evening approaches, villages become active once more. Cooking fires are lit. Children return home. Animals are fed. The smell of baking bread drifts through the air. Voices emerge from open doorways. Families gather together. The working day slowly comes to an end. Inside one home, a grandmother tells stories while helping prepare the evening meal. Nearby, younger family members listen while completing small tasks. Knowledge passes naturally between generations. Not through formal lessons, but through daily life. Through observation. Through shared experience. Ancient Egypt is a world where learning often happens this way. A child watches a parent. A student watches a master craftsperson. A young worker watches an older worker. Skills move from one generation to the next. Slowly. Patiently. Like the river itself. Darkness gradually spreads across the landscape. Stars appear overhead. The temperature finally begins to fall. Workers wash dust from their hands. Tools are stored away. Doors close. Voices become quieter. The day releases its hold. One by one, the lights disappear. The village settles into stillness. Beyond the homes, the Nile continues flowing through the night. Unhurried. Endless. Its waters pass fields, temples, workshops, and sleeping communities. Tomorrow, thousands of workers will rise once again. Farmers. Fishermen. Servants. Builders. Scribes. Merchants. Potters. Weavers. And countless others whose lives are woven quietly into the story of ancient Egypt. For now, however, they rest beneath the stars. The river whispers softly beside the darkened shore. The warm breeze moves through the reeds. And the ancient world drifts gently into another peaceful night. The stars shine quietly above the Nile. They seem almost unchanged from one generation to the next. Long before the great temples rose beside the river, those same stars watched over the water. Long after countless workers finished their final day of labor, the stars continued their slow journey across the night sky. For the people of ancient Egypt, night brings relief. The heat softens. The roads become still. The endless responsibilities of the day finally loosen their grip. A cool breeze drifts through narrow village streets. Palm leaves rustle softly. The river glimmers beneath moonlight. Inside homes, families sleep close together. The walls of mud brick hold back some of the night air. Reed mats cover the floors. Clay jars rest in corners. Baskets hang from wooden pegs. The room is simple, but it is familiar. A laborer's home is often modest. There is little space. Few possessions. Yet after a long day of work, even a small shelter can feel welcoming. Outside, the Nile continues flowing through the darkness. Its water moves quietly past villages, farms, and cities. The river never sleeps. And before long, neither will the people who depend upon it. The first signs of dawn appear far across the eastern horizon. A faint pale glow begins spreading through the darkness. Birds awaken among the reeds. Somewhere, a rooster calls. Another day begins. In one village, a family rises together. The father works in the fields. His oldest son helps with irrigation channels. A younger daughter assists with household tasks. Their lives are connected through work. Every member of the household contributes something. The father steps outside. The morning air feels pleasant against his skin. Soon the heat will return. But for now, the world feels calm. The village is waking slowly. Thin streams of smoke rise into the sky as cooking fires are lit. The smell of fresh bread begins to spread through the streets. A neighbor carries water from the river. Another sweeps dust from a doorway. The sounds are gentle. The rhythm familiar. Many people spend their entire lives in places like this. They know every path, every field, every bend in the river. The landscape becomes part of them. As sunlight gradually brightens the sky, workers begin moving toward their daily tasks. The roads fill with activity. Farmers head toward fields. Craftsmen open workshops. Merchants prepare their stalls. The world of labor awakens once more. Along the Nile, boatmen are already at work. Their vessels serve many purposes. Some carry grain. Some transport stone. Others move people between communities. The river acts like a great road stretching across the land. Travel by water is often easier than travel across dusty terrain. A boatman unties a rope from a wooden post. The boat drifts gently from shore. The current catches it. The journey begins. The work of a boatman requires patience. The river moves at its own pace. Wind conditions change. Water levels rise and fall. Experience matters. The best boatmen understand the Nile almost as if it were a living companion. They recognize subtle changes. They notice small details. Over many years, they learn to trust their observations. Nearby, another group of workers loads sacks of grain onto a vessel. The sacks are heavy. Their shoulders strain beneath the weight. Dust rises into the morning air. The labor is repetitive. Lift. Carry. Set down. Repeat. Many jobs in ancient Egypt involve this kind of physical effort. Not dramatic effort. Not heroic effort. Simply steady labor repeated day after day. The kind of work that slowly builds strength. And slowly creates exhaustion. As the morning progresses, the sun climbs higher. Its warmth spreads across the land. The fields begin to glow beneath bright light. Farmers move carefully among growing crops. One worker repairs a damaged irrigation channel. Another checks water levels. A third examines plants for signs of trouble. Agriculture depends upon attention. Small problems can become larger ones if ignored. The fields require constant observation. The work is never truly finished. There is always another task waiting. Always another responsibility. The Nile provides life, but human effort helps shape that life into food. Not far away, a young worker guides oxen through a field. The animals move steadily. Dust gathers around their feet. The young man watches carefully. His father taught him this work. His grandfather likely learned the same skills from another generation before him. Knowledge travels through families. One pair of hands teaching another. One voice guiding the next. This quiet transfer of experience forms the foundation of many occupations. Across Egypt, countless workers learn in exactly this way. Meanwhile, within a larger town, the sounds of industry fill the streets. A metal worker tends a small furnace. The air around him is already warm. Soon it will become much hotter. He watches the fire closely. Metalworking requires attention. Temperatures matter. Timing matters. A mistake can ruin hours of labor. Nearby, tools hang from walls blackened by smoke. The workshop carries the smell of heated metal and charcoal. The work is demanding. The heat can be intense. Yet skilled metal workers remain highly valued. Tools must be made. Blades must be repaired. Equipment must be maintained. Many other professions depend upon their craftsmanship. The metal worker wipes sweat from his forehead. Then returns to his task. The day has only begun. Across town, another worker spends her morning weaving baskets. She sits in partial shade beside a doorway. Bundles of reeds rest nearby. Her fingers move steadily. Over. Under. Around. Pull tight. The process is slow. Almost meditative. The basket gradually takes shape. Useful objects fill every corner of Egyptian life. Most are handmade. Most require time. Many require great skill. The basket weaver knows exactly how each reed should bend. She understands which materials work best. Years of practice guide her hands. As the hours pass, sunlight floods the streets. The heat begins building once again. Shadows shrink. The bright sky seems endless. Workers continue moving through their routines. A merchant counts goods. A scribe records information. A carpenter shapes wood. A fisherman repairs a damaged net. The variety of occupations is remarkable. Ancient Egypt depends upon far more than farming alone. Every community contains a network of specialized labor. Each person contributes something. Each task supports another. The baker depends upon farmers. Farmers depend upon toolmakers. Toolmakers depend upon traders. Traders depend upon boatmen. Boatmen depend upon builders. The connections stretch in every direction, like threads woven together into a single fabric. By midday, the heat settles heavily over the land. The sunlight feels almost solid. Workers seek relief wherever they can find it. Shade becomes precious. A narrow alley. A tree. A wall. A simple roof made from reeds. Even small comforts matter. In one workshop, craftsmen pause for a meal. Bread is shared among the group. There may be onions. Perhaps dried fish. Perhaps beans. The food is simple. Yet after hours of labor, it is welcome. The men sit quietly. Some talk softly. Others simply rest. Their bodies appreciate the chance to be still. Outside, a warm wind stirs dust along the road. The afternoon stretches ahead. For some workers, this is the hardest part of the day. Energy begins to fade. Muscles grow tired. The morning feels far away. Yet responsibilities remain. A servant continues carrying water. A farmer continues tending crops. A builder continues lifting stone. The work must be completed. So they continue. Hour after hour. One task at a time. Near the edge of a larger settlement stands a construction site. Here, laborers work on a new structure. The building rises slowly from the earth. Mud bricks are stacked carefully. Measurements are checked. Materials are transported from place to place. The pace is steady. No one rushes. The heat discourages haste. Instead, workers rely upon consistency. A little progress each day. Then a little more. Over time, entire buildings emerge. Ancient Egypt is filled with structures created through this patient method. Not sudden achievements, but gradual ones. Built through thousands of ordinary days. As afternoon slowly begins to fade, the sunlight changes. Its harsh brightness softens. The shadows lengthen once more. Workers feel a quiet sense of relief. The most difficult hours are ending. The air remains warm, but it becomes easier to breathe. Along the Nile, fishermen prepare to return home. Their boats glide through golden reflections. Birds skim low across the water. The river appears peaceful. Almost timeless. A fisherman checks his catch. The day has been reasonable. Not exceptional. Not disappointing. Simply enough. For many workers, enough is all they hope for. Enough food. Enough water. Enough work. Enough rest. As evening approaches, families begin gathering once again. Children return from errands. Parents finish their final tasks. Cooking fires are lit. The smell of bread drifts through the village. Voices rise from courtyards. Laughter appears here and there. Not loud. Not constant. Just small moments woven into everyday life. Inside one home, a woman kneels beside a clay oven. She prepares the evening meal. Nearby, an elderly relative watches children play. The day's labor is nearly finished. The atmosphere feels lighter now. The burdens of work have temporarily lifted. People can simply exist together. Share food. Share stories. Share silence. Outside, darkness slowly spreads across the land. The first stars appear overhead. The Nile becomes a ribbon of shadow in the sky. One by one, village sounds begin to fade. Workshops close. Roads empty. Animals settle for the night. A calm stillness returns. The laborers who filled the day with effort now seek rest once more. Tomorrow will bring another sunrise. Another walk to the fields. Another journey onto the river. Another day inside crowded workshops. Another evening beside cooking fires. But those concerns belong to the future. For now, the ancient world grows quiet. The breeze moves gently through the reeds. The river flows onward beneath the stars. And across Egypt, countless workers drift into sleep, wrapped in the comforting rhythm of a life that rises and falls with the Nile itself. The Nile moves through the darkness like a long ribbon of black glass. Moonlight rests upon its surface. Small waves catch the silver light and carry it downstream. Along the banks, reeds whisper softly whenever the night breeze passes through them. The sound is gentle enough to blend into the silence. Most of Egypt sleeps. The fields are empty. The workshops are dark. The market stalls stand abandoned until morning. Only a few distant lamps remain visible, their small flames flickering behind doorways and windows. The great heat of the day has finally disappeared. The earth slowly releases the warmth it gathered beneath the sun. For workers across the land, these hours are precious. A farmer stretches comfortably on a woven mat. A boatman sleeps beside his family. A potter rests tired hands that shaped clay from sunrise until evening. A servant enjoys a few peaceful hours free from responsibilities. The night belongs to rest. And in ancient Egypt, rest is never taken for granted. Life demands too much labor for that. As midnight passes, the stars seem brighter. The sky above the desert appears endless. Without city lights, thousands upon thousands of stars shine clearly overhead. Ancient Egyptians know these stars well. They watch them throughout the year. They notice their movements. They use them to understand seasons and time. The sky itself becomes part of daily life. Yet tonight, beneath that immense blanket of stars, everything remains still. For now. Far in the distance, the first signs of dawn begin preparing their arrival. The eastern horizon slowly lightens. The darkness weakens. A cool gray glow spreads across the land. Birds awaken. The river reflects pale morning colors. Another day is beginning. In a village near the riverbank, an elderly farmer rises from sleep. His body feels stiff. Years of labor have left their mark. His back aches when he stands. His knees protest slightly. His hands are rough from decades of work. Yet he moves with quiet determination. There is comfort in routine. He has followed these same morning habits for most of his life. Outside, the air feels pleasant. The village remains mostly quiet. A few cooking fires have already been lit. Thin trails of smoke drift upward into the brightening sky. Soon the roads will fill with workers. Soon the heat will return. But for a brief moment, the world feels calm. The farmer walks toward the river. The water reflects the colors of dawn: pink, silver, pale gold. The surface remains mostly smooth. Only occasional ripples disturb its reflection. He pauses for a moment. Many workers begin their days beside the Nile. The river provides more than water. It provides a sense of continuity. A feeling that some things remain constant no matter how much time passes. The river flowed before he was born. It will continue flowing after he is gone. There is something comforting about that thought. Nearby, another household is already busy preparing for the day. A woman kneels beside a grinding stone. The familiar work begins once more. Grain becomes flour. Flour becomes bread. Bread becomes the foundation of daily life. The stone moves steadily. Back and forth. Back and forth. The sound is quiet but persistent. This task has been performed countless times before. And it will be performed countless times again. The effort required to produce even simple food is immense. Many people spend large portions of their lives helping provide meals for their families. The labor often goes unnoticed. Yet it remains essential. Without it, nothing else would be possible. As sunrise approaches, warm light spreads across the fields. Farmers begin arriving at their plots of land. The crops stand quietly beneath the growing brightness. Rows of green stretch across the fertile soil. Irrigation channels carry precious water where it is needed. The landscape feels alive. A young worker examines one of the channels. During the night, a small section collapsed. Now it must be repaired. The work is not difficult. But it takes time. And time is valuable. Every hour spent fixing problems is an hour not spent on other responsibilities. Still, the repair must be completed. The Nile gives life. Yet maintaining the systems that distribute its water requires constant effort. Many jobs in ancient Egypt are like this. Small tasks that seem insignificant on their own. But together they support entire communities. A broken channel. A damaged tool. A leaking storage jar. Each problem demands attention. Someone must solve it. Someone must do the work. As the morning grows brighter, activity spreads across the countryside. Donkeys carry supplies. Workers travel dusty roads. Boats move along the river. The land awakens fully. Near a larger town, a carpenter begins his day. His workshop smells faintly of wood and dust. Sunlight enters through the doorway. Tools hang neatly along the walls. The carpenter runs a hand across a partially completed stool. There is still much to do. Woodworking requires patience. Every measurement matters. Every cut matters. Mistakes waste valuable materials. Good wood can be difficult to obtain. Nothing should be used carelessly. The carpenter sits down and begins working. Small curls of wood fall to the floor. The sound of tools scraping and cutting fills the room. Outside, the town grows busier. Merchants arrange goods. Customers arrive. Voices drip through the streets. The day unfolds gradually. Not far away, a group of workers enters a textile workshop. Inside, looms stand ready. Bundles of flax wait to be processed. The room soon fills with activity. Threads stretch across wooden frames. Hands move carefully. The work requires attention. A moment of carelessness can create flaws in the cloth. Many of these workers learn their skills from parents or relatives. Knowledge passes naturally through generations. Not through books. Not through formal instruction. But through observation and practice. A child watches, then imitates, then improves, eventually becoming a skilled worker as well. The cycle continues, as it always has. Meanwhile, farther down the river, a fisherman pushes his boat away from shore. The water is calm. The morning wind is gentle. Birds glide across the surface. The fisherman settles into familiar routines. Checking nets, watching currents, reading small signs in the environment. Fishing requires patience more than speed. There are long periods of waiting, moments of observation, quiet stretches where nothing seems to happen. Many fishermen grow comfortable with silence. The river teaches it. Hours spent listening to water encourage a different pace of life. A slower pace. A steadier pace. The kind of pace that allows a person to notice small details. A fish breaking the surface. A change in wind direction. The movement of distant birds. These details matter. They become part of the fisherman's understanding of the river. By late morning, the heat begins building once more. Shadows shorten. The sunlight grows intense. Workers feel sweat gathering beneath linen clothing. The desert reminds everyone of its presence. Even in fertile regions near the Nile, the surrounding landscape remains dry. The green fields exist because of effort. Because of water. Because of constant maintenance. Without those things, the desert would quickly reclaim the land. A farmer pauses to drink water. Nearby, another worker adjusts a head covering to shield himself from the sun. Conversations become less frequent. People focus on conserving energy. The hottest hours require endurance. And endurance becomes a skill of its own. Inside a bakery, the heat feels even stronger. The ovens radiate warmth into the room. Flour hangs faintly in the air. Workers move steadily through familiar tasks. Mixing dough. Shaping loaves. Loading ovens. Removing finished bread. The bakery never stays quiet for long. There is always more bread to prepare. Always another batch waiting. The smell fills the street outside. Warm and comforting. One of the most familiar scents in the ancient world. Many people associate that smell with home. With family. With evening meals shared after long days of labor. As midday arrives, much of Egypt slows. Not completely, but noticeably. The heat demands respect. Workers seek shade. Animals rest. Even the busiest streets become slightly quieter. A group of builders sits beneath a temporary shelter. They eat bread and onions. One man stretches tired arms. Another rubs dust from his face. The conversation is relaxed. Nobody speaks quickly. The afternoon feels long enough already. There is no need to hurry. Nearby, a young apprentice listens to older workers discussing construction techniques. The apprentice watches carefully. Learning often happens this way. Not in formal lessons, but through observation. The older workers explain why certain methods are used. How materials behave. What mistakes should be avoided. Experience passes from one generation to the next. Slowly. Patiently. Like water flowing through irrigation channels. As afternoon begins, work resumes. The sun remains strong, but responsibilities cannot be ignored. A mason returns to shaping stone. A merchant returns to his stall. A weaver returns to her loom. A servant returns to household duties. The cycle continues. Across Egypt, thousands upon thousands of workers follow similar rhythms. not because anyone commands them to do so, but because daily life requires it. Food must be produced. Goods must be made. Homes must be maintained. Children must be cared for. The entire society depends upon ordinary labor. The grand monuments that future generations admire are only part of the story. Most of ancient Egypt is built from everyday work. Quiet work. Routine work. Work that rarely receives recognition. Yet work that matters deeply. As the afternoon slowly fades, shadows begin growing longer once again. The worst heat gradually retreats. Workers feel relief. The air becomes easier to breathe. Energy returns. The landscape takes on softer colors. Gold replaces white. Orange replaces yellow. The Nile reflects the changing sky. Boats begin turning toward home. Farmers finish final tasks in the fields. Merchants organize their goods. The day starts winding down. Along the riverbank, a fisherman pulls his boat ashore. His catch is modest. Enough to bring home. Enough to trade. Enough. The word itself carries comfort. Enough food. Enough water. Enough work. Enough peace. He gathers his equipment and begins walking toward the village. The road feels familiar beneath his feet. The evening breeze carries the smell of cooking fires. Home is not far away. As darkness slowly returns, families gather once more. Meals are prepared. Stories are shared. Children grow sleepy. The labor of the day begins fading into memory. Outside, the stars appear one by one. The Nile becomes dark again. Quiet again. Timeless again. And across the ancient land, countless workers settle into another peaceful night, resting beneath the same sky that watched over their parents, their grandparents, and generations stretching far beyond memory. The night air feels softer now. A gentle breeze drifts across the Nile, carrying the scent of water and damp earth. The river moves quietly beneath the stars, following its ancient path through fields, villages, and distant cities. Along the banks, reeds sway in slow rhythm, their shadows shifting beneath the moonlight. The day is gone. The tools have been put away. The ovens have cooled. The roads that were crowded only hours ago now rest in silence. In a small village, a family sleeps behind thick mud brick walls. The room is dark except for the faint glow of moonlight slipping through a narrow opening near the roof. A woven basket sits in one corner. Clay jars stand against the wall. A few simple belongings rest where they have been placed for years. Life here is modest. Most families own only what they need. Every object serves a purpose. A storage jar protects grain. A woven mat provides a place to sleep. A wooden stool offers a place to rest after a long day. Nothing is wasted. Everything has value. Outside, the stars continue their slow journey across the sky. Many workers have spent their entire lives beneath these stars. They know the seasons by them. They know when floods may come. They know when planting time approaches. The sky itself becomes part of the rhythm of work. Hours pass. The village remains still. Then, little by little, the darkness begins to fade. The eastern horizon grows pale. A faint line of silver appears above the desert. Birds begin calling from the reeds. The first signs of morning arrive. Ancient Egypt awakens once again. In one household, a young girl rises before the rest of her family. She moves quietly across the room. The floor feels cool beneath her feet. Outside, the air is pleasant. For a short time, before the sun climbs higher, the world belongs to the coolness of dawn. She walks toward the river carrying a clay jar. Many people begin their mornings this way. Water is needed for cooking, for cleaning, for drinking, for countless daily tasks. The trip to the Nile is part of life. A routine repeated so often that it becomes second nature. The path is familiar. The river is familiar. Even the sounds feel familiar. The soft splash of water. The rustling reeds. The distant voices of other early risers. She fills the jar carefully. Then begins the walk home. The container feels heavy. Yet she has carried similar loads many times before. Strength develops naturally through daily work. Across ancient Egypt, ordinary tasks quietly shape the bodies of workers. A farmer grows strong through years of lifting and digging. A potter develops powerful hands from shaping clay. A boatman gains strength through rowing and handling ropes. The work itself becomes a form of training. As sunlight spreads across the landscape, more people emerge from their homes. Cooking fires are lit. The smell of smoke drifts into the cool morning air. Soon another scent follows. Fresh bread. It rises from ovens throughout villages and towns. The aroma is warm and comforting. For many workers, the smell signals the beginning of another day. A baker is already busy. His hands move confidently through familiar motions. Mixing. Kneading. Shaping. The process requires skill. Small changes in moisture or heat can affect the final result. Experience matters. The baker understands his ovens. He understands his ingredients. Years of repetition have taught him countless small details. Details difficult to explain but easy to recognize. The bread slowly browns. The smell spreads through nearby streets. People passing by notice it immediately. Some pause for a moment. Others continue walking. But nearly everyone appreciates it. Nearby, farmers make their way toward the fields. The sunlight remains gentle for now. Long shadows stretch across the ground. The air feels fresh. This is often the most comfortable part of the day. The fields look beautiful in the early light. Green crops sway softly in the breeze. Water glimmers inside irrigation channels. Birds move among the plants searching for food. The landscape feels peaceful. Yet the peace exists alongside hard work. A farmer bends to inspect a section of crops. Everything appears healthy. That is good news. Even so, there is always something requiring attention. Weeds must be removed. Channels must be maintained. Tools must be repaired. The responsibilities never disappear completely. One task leads naturally into another. And then another. And another. The work unfolds like the river itself. Steady. Continuous. Without hurry. Without pause. Not far away, another worker begins a very different kind of day. A shepherd guides animals toward grazing areas. The animals move slowly. Dust rises around their feet. The shepherd walks beside them carrying a simple staff. His work demands patience. Animals must be watched carefully. A moment of distraction can create problems. The shepherd spends many hours outdoors. He becomes familiar with weather patterns. Animal behavior. Changes in the landscape. The work can feel lonely at times. Yet it also offers moments of remarkable quiet. Long stretches where the only sounds are wind, birds, and distant animal calls. Some workers come to appreciate that silence. The peaceful rhythm of open land. As morning progresses, activity increases across the towns. Marketplaces become busy. Craftsmen open workshops. Merchants arrange goods. The sounds of commerce begin filling the streets. A pottery seller places finished vessels where customers can easily see them. Rows of jars catch the sunlight. Bowls sit neatly arranged beside larger containers. Each piece represents hours of labor. Digging clay. Preparing materials. Shaping forms. Drying. Firing. Transporting. No object appears from nowhere. Every item carries the invisible effort of workers. The marketplace reveals these hidden connections. A customer purchasing a storage jar may never meet the person who gathered the clay, or the person who carried firewood to the kiln. Yet their labor remains present in the finished object. Ancient Egypt functions through countless relationships like these. People depend upon one another in ways they may never fully see. As the sun rises higher, the heat begins its daily return. Shadows grow shorter. The air becomes heavier. Workers adjust their pace. The wise know that energy must be managed carefully. No one can fight the Egyptian sun forever. A group of laborers works on a canal project. The task is important. Water must reach fields efficiently. The canal will help accomplish that. The men dig steadily. Earth is removed basket by basket. The progress feels slow. Yet by the end of a season, enormous changes can occur. Many achievements in ancient Egypt happen this way. Not through sudden bursts of activity, but through steady effort sustained over long periods. Patience becomes one of the most valuable skills a worker can possess. Nearby, a supervisor observes the work. He offers instructions when necessary, checks measurements, solves problems as they arise. Even leadership involves labor. Different labor, but labor nonetheless. By midday, the landscape shimmers beneath intense sunlight. The desert beyond the cultivated land appears almost white beneath the brightness. Workers seek relief wherever they can find it. A patch of shade beneath a tree. A shelter made from reeds. The cool side of a wall. Small comforts become important. A group of craftsmen shares a simple meal. Bread. Beans. Perhaps a few vegetables. Water from a clay vessel. The food is modest. Yet after hours of work, it tastes satisfying. Conversation drifts between the men. They discuss families, recent events, the condition of crops, the level of the river. These subjects fill countless conversations throughout Egypt. The Nile touches nearly every aspect of life. Its behavior influences food supplies, work opportunities, community well-being. People pay attention to it. They always have. After the meal, the workers return to their tasks. The afternoon moves slowly. The heat encourages patience. No one rushes unnecessarily. A carpenter smooths the surface of a wooden chest. A weaver checks the tension of threads. A fisherman repairs a net damaged during the morning. Each task requires concentration. Carelessness often creates more work later. So workers proceed carefully, methodically. The rhythm of labor continues. Hour after hour. Along the river, boats drift through golden sunlight. Some carry goods. Others carry passengers. The Nile remains busy even during the hottest part of the day. A boatman adjusts a sail. The wind has shifted slightly. He responds without thinking. Experience has taught him how. Years spent on the water create instincts that younger workers still lack. Knowledge accumulates slowly, one season at a time. 1 year at a time. Eventually, the river feels almost familiar enough to speak. As afternoon begins fading toward evening, the light changes once more. The harsh brightness softens. Colors deepen. The fields glow warmly beneath the lowering sun. Workers notice the difference immediately. Relief spreads quietly through the land. The hardest hours have passed. A farmer completes one final task before leaving the field. A merchant closes a storage container. A mason puts away tools. The day begins loosening its hold. Children run through village streets. Animals return to shelters. Cooking fires are prepared. The familiar rhythm of evening arrives. Families gather. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. For a little while, work steps into the background. People simply enjoy one another's company. A grandfather describes events from many years ago. A child listens with fascination. A mother prepares bread. A father repairs a small tool that will be needed tomorrow. Life continues in these quiet moments. Not only in the fields and workshops, but also around evening fires and family meals. As darkness returns, stars appear above the Nile once again. The river reflects tiny points of light. The breeze cools. Voices grow softer. One by one, homes become quiet. The workers of Egypt settle into rest. Tomorrow will bring new responsibilities. New tasks. New challenges. But for now, those things can wait. The river continues its endless journey through the night. The reeds whisper softly along the banks. And beneath the watchful stars, the ordinary workers of ancient Egypt drift peacefully into sleep once more. The night settles once again over the land of Egypt, as if it has always been there and will always return the same way. The river moves beneath it, slow and patient, carrying the reflection of distant stars. The water does not hurry. It does not change its rhythm for anyone. It simply continues forward, as it always has, through fields that depend on it and villages that rise and fall along its banks. Inside homes made of mud, brick and reed, sleep deepens. People lie close together in small rooms. The heat of the day has finally left the walls, though a faint warmth still lingers in the clay. The air is still. Soft. Heavy in a quiet way. A worker shifts slightly in sleep. A child breathes slowly. A clay jar sits in the corner, half filled from the previous day's water. Everything rests. But even in rest, the body remembers work. Hands remember rope and grain. Shoulders remember lifting. Feet remember walking long paths through fields and streets. In ancient Egypt, rest is never separate from labor. It is only the space between days of labor. The night passes gently. Stars move without sound. And then, far in the east, a thin line of light returns. The darkness does not disappear all at once. It loosens slowly, like cloth being unwoven. The sky becomes pale, then soft gray, then faint gold at the edge of the world. Another morning approaches. A rooster calls somewhere near the river. A door opens quietly. A bucket is lifted. Water shifts inside clay. The day begins again without announcement, without ceremony, as it always does. In one small household, a young boy is already awake. He sits near the doorway, still quiet, watching the first light spread across the ground. His task today is simple, like most days. He will help carry water. He will help gather small things for the home. He will follow instructions from older members of his family. Nothing about it feels unusual. It is simply life. Outside, the village is already moving. Smoke rises from cooking fires in thin lines that drift upward and vanish into the growing brightness. The smell of bread begins again, soft and warm, carried through narrow streets and open courtyards. Somewhere, flour is being kneaded. Somewhere else, dough is being shaped. Somewhere else again, ovens are being prepared. The same actions repeat across homes that may never meet, yet share the same rhythm. The river watches all of it in silence. A fisherman stands at the edge of the water. He has been here before sunrise. His boat rests lightly against the shore, tied with simple rope. The water near his feet is cool. Dark. Still half asleep from the night. He checks his net without speaking. There is no need for words here. The work is familiar. The motion is familiar. He steps into the boat. The wood creaks softly beneath his weight. He pushes away from land. The river receives him without resistance. As the boat drifts outward, the village behind him grows smaller. Smoke rises behind him. The sound of waking life fades slightly. Out here, everything becomes quieter. Only water remains. Only movement. Only the slow understanding of current and direction. He adjusts his net. He watches the surface. He waits. Fishing is not a job of constant action. It is a job of patience stretched across time. A fisherman learns to exist between moments, between movements of fish beneath the surface, between changes in wind that are barely noticeable. He has learned this over years. Perhaps since childhood. Perhaps since before he could fully understand the meaning of waiting. Back on land, farmers are already walking toward the fields. The soil is cool beneath early light. Damp in some places where irrigation channels have carried water during the night. The crops stand still, as if they too are pausing before the day begins. A man kneels and touches the earth. He checks its moisture. He checks the plants. He does this almost without thinking now. His hands know what to look for even when his thoughts are elsewhere. Nearby, another worker adjusts a simple tool made of wood and stone. It is not perfect. It does not need to be. It only needs to work. In ancient Egypt, tools are often simple, shaped by necessity more than design. What matters is that they last long enough to complete the season, to complete the task, to carry work forward another step. The fields stretch outward, wide and open, bordered by the distant dryness of desert land that waits patiently just beyond the reach of water. Everything here depends on balance. Too little water, and the crops fail. Too much, and the soil becomes heavy. Too little work, and nothing grows. Too much neglect, and the land returns to dust. The farmer understands this balance not as theory, but as daily experience. He walks the field slowly. The morning light grows stronger. By mid-morning, the heat begins to arrive again. It does not come suddenly. It builds. It rises from the ground. It gathers in the air. It settles across skin and cloth and stone. Workers feel it before they fully notice it. A change in weight. A change in breath. A change in silence. In a workshop deeper inside the village, a potter is already at work. His wheel turns with steady motion. Clay responds under his hands. Wet earth becomes shape. Shape becomes vessel. Vessels will carry grain. Water. Oil. Things necessary for survival. He does not think about each item as important in itself. He thinks about repetition. About process. About the next form that must be made. One after another. Hour after hour. Outside, children run briefly between houses, their movements light against the growing heat. They carry small tasks for their families. They deliver items. They fetch water. They observe the world of adults, slowly learning it without formal instruction. A child watches a baker at work through a doorway. The oven is already warm. The baker moves with practiced ease. The child does not speak. He simply watches. In time, he will understand what he is seeing. By midday, the land becomes still in a different way. Not silent like night, but heavy. The sun stands high above everything. Shadows shrink close to bodies and walls. The air feels dense with warmth. Work continues, but more slowly now. More carefully. A group of laborers rests beneath a simple shelter made from woven reeds and wooden posts. They sit in a loose circle. Bread is passed from hand to hand. Water is shared carefully from a clay jar. No one rushes. There is no reason to. The heat itself enforces patience. One man leans back against a support beam, eyes half closed for a moment. Another wipes dust from his arms. A third quietly checks a tool before placing it aside again. They do not complain. The day is simply what it is. After a time, they rise again. Not all at once. Gradually. One by one. Work resumes in the same slow rhythm it has followed since dawn. In another part of the settlement, a scribe sits in partial shade. His writing surface rests on his knees. His hand moves carefully. Each symbol requires attention. Each record matters. He is not physically burdened like those in the fields, yet his focus carries its own weight. Accuracy is expected. Mistakes must be avoided. Information must remain clear and reliable. He pauses briefly. He listens to the distant sounds of labor outside. Then he returns to writing. Across the river, a boat drifts with supplies. It carries goods that will be used in another settlement further along the Nile. Everything moves along this river. People. Grain. Tools. Stone. Information. The river connects more than land. It connects lives. As afternoon begins its long slow decline, the light changes again. The harsh white brightness softens into something warmer. The sky becomes less sharp. The air begins to loosen slightly. Workers feel it before they see it. A subtle easing. A return of breath. In the fields, farmers straighten their backs. In workshops, tools are set down briefly. In the marketplace, movement becomes less dense. The day is moving toward its end. A man walks home carrying a bundle of reeds. A woman follows a narrow path beside irrigation water. A fisherman returns with his boat angled gently toward shore. The river reflects the changing sky, as if it too understands the transition. Evening arrives slowly, like a long exhale. Fires are lit once more. The smell of cooking returns to the air. Families gather. Voices become softer. The pace of life slows again. A child falls asleep against a woven mat while still sitting upright. A father repairs a small object by firelight. A mother folds cloth carefully beside a clay jar. Outside, darkness begins its return. The stars appear one by one. The Nile flows on, unchanged, carrying the reflection of the sky just as it always has. And in homes across the land, workers who have spent another full day moving between water, earth, stone, and grain finally allow their bodies to rest again. Tomorrow will come. But not yet. For now, there is only the quiet night. Only the river. Only sleep. The night returns gently, as it always does. There is no sharp edge between evening and darkness in ancient Egypt. It is a slow fading, a gradual softening of color. The sky deepens from gold to blue, from blue to deep shadow, until only the stars remain, steady and quiet above the land. The Nile carries that darkness along its surface. It reflects the sky without effort. It does not choose what to reflect. It simply receives what is above it, and moves it forward in silence. Along the banks, the villages have grown still again. The day's movement is gone. The dust has settled back into the earth. The sounds of tools, footsteps, and voices have faded into memory. Inside homes, people sleep in the same positions they have slept in for most of their lives. Close to family. Close to walls that hold warmth. Close to the familiar objects of daily existence. A woven mat. A storage jar. A simple stool. A folded piece of cloth. Everything arranged not for display, but for use. The night is not empty. It is simply quiet. And in that quiet, the world prepares itself again. Before dawn, even before the sky begins to lighten, a soft movement returns to some homes. Not all at once. Just here and there. A door opening. A foot stepping carefully onto cool ground. A hand reaching for water. In one household near the river, a woman begins preparing dough. She does not speak. The motion is familiar enough that words are unnecessary. Flour is poured. Water is added. The mixture is worked slowly at first, then with more confidence as the texture changes beneath her hands. Bread in ancient Egypt is not something that appears suddenly. It is something that is made through time. Through touch. Through repetition. Each household participates in this process in some way. Some grind grain. Some bake. Some transport. Some trade. All of it connects back to the same simple need. Food for the day ahead. Outside, the first pale line of dawn returns. The eastern sky begins to soften. The river, still dark, starts to lose its deepest black and take on faint shades of gray. Birds begin to call again from the reeds. Their voices are small but persistent, as if reminding the world that movement will soon return. A fisherman is already awake. He has been awake for some time. He sits quietly beside his boat, waiting for enough light to see the water clearly. The river feels different in these early hours. Calmer. Smoother. Almost heavier with silence. He checks his net one more time. The knots. The weight. The condition of the rope. Everything must be in order before the boat leaves the shore. There is no rush in his movements. Only familiarity. When the light is ready, he pushes off again. The boat slides into the river as if it belongs there more than it belongs on land. The water accepts him. It always does. Far inland, farmers begin to gather tools. A hoe resting against a wall. A wooden plow leaned carefully in a shaded corner. Baskets waiting by doorways. Each object has its place because each object will be needed again. A man lifts a tool and rests it on his shoulder. He stands for a moment before walking. Not because he is thinking, but because the day itself is still forming. The air is cool. The fields are waiting. And so he walks. The early hours in the fields are often the most peaceful. The sun has not yet reached its full strength. The air still carries a softness that will disappear later. Crops move slightly in the breeze. Water sits quietly in channels carved through the earth. A worker kneels and inspects a plant. Another adjusts a small barrier in the irrigation system. Another simply stands still for a moment, watching the land as it begins to wake. These moments are brief, but they matter. They are the beginning of every working day. Elsewhere, a potter is already shaping the first vessels of the morning. His hands are damp with clay. The wheel turns slowly. The sound is steady and low, like a soft heartbeat of the workshop. He does not think about time in hours. He thinks in cycles. A vessel finished. A vessel started. A vessel drying. A vessel fired. One after another. The rhythm is enough to carry him through the day. In a nearby courtyard, children are already awake. They move between tasks that feel small, but are part of something larger. Carrying water. Sweeping dust. Helping prepare food. Watching adults work. Learning without being told they are learning. A child stands near a doorway, observing a group of workers passing along the road. They move in pairs or small groups. Their steps are steady. Their conversations are quiet. Each carries something. A bundle. A tool. A container. Work in ancient Egypt often travels with the worker. Not contained in one place, but spread across the land like the river itself. By mid-morning, the sun begins to assert itself again. Light grows stronger. Colors sharpen. Shadows shorten. The familiar pressure of heat begins to build. Workers adjust without needing to speak about it. Cloth is wrapped more tightly around heads. Movements become more measured. Energy is used carefully. In the fields, irrigation channels are checked again. Water must flow correctly. Too slow, and crops suffer. Too fast, and soil erodes. Balance must be maintained at all times. A farmer watches the flow and makes a small adjustment with his hands. It is simple work. But it matters deeply. Nearby, a group of laborers carries baskets of earth to reinforce a canal edge. The task repeats. Lift. Carry. Place. Return. Again and again. The repetition does not feel strange to them. It is the structure of their day. In town, the marketplace begins to fill. Merchants arrange goods in familiar patterns. Jars placed carefully. Bread displayed in baskets. Textiles folded neatly. Trade is not rushed. It unfolds through conversation, observation, and trust built over time. A merchant speaks with a customer about grain. They do not raise their voices. They do not hurry. They simply exchange words and understanding until agreement is reached. Nearby, a scribe records the exchange. His brush moves across papyrus with controlled precision. Each mark carries meaning. Each line preserves the moment. The record becomes part of something larger than the individuals involved. It becomes part of the system that keeps the land organized. By the time midday arrives, the heat settles fully over everything again. The world becomes still in its familiar way. Not silent, but heavy. The air presses down gently on shoulders and backs. Movement slows. Not stops. Just slows. Under a reed shelter near the fields, workers rest again. They sit in a loose circle. Bread is shared. Water is passed carefully from hand to hand. No one speaks more than necessary. The shade is enough. The rest is enough. A man leans back and closes his eyes for a moment. Not fully asleep. Just resting within the moment. The kind of rest that can only exist in the middle of a long working life. After some time, they rise again. The afternoon will not wait. Work continues because it must. Across the land, similar scenes repeat. A mason returns to stone. A weaver returns to thread. A fisherman returns to water. A servant returns to household tasks. Each person moving back into their role within the larger rhythm of the day. The Nile flows beside all of it, unchanged, unhurried, present in every direction. As afternoon begins its slow decline, light softens once more. The edges of the world lose their harshness. Colors deepen. The air becomes slightly easier to breathe. Workers feel the change before they fully notice it. A shift in weight. A shift in breath. A quiet understanding that the hardest hours are passing. Boats begin turning toward shore. Tools begin to be set aside. Paths begin filling with returning footsteps. The day moves toward evening without resistance. Near the river, a fisherman pulls in his net. The catch is modest again. Enough for home. Enough for tomorrow. Enough to continue. He nods slightly to himself, as if acknowledging the simple balance of most days. Not abundance. Not emptiness. Just enough. As dusk arrives, villages begin their final transformation of the day. Cooking fires glow in courtyards. Smoke rises gently into the cooling air. The smell of bread returns again, familiar and comforting. Voices become more present. Not loud. Just closer. Families gather in shared spaces. Meals are prepared. Stories are exchanged. The rhythm of evening settles in. A child falls asleep early, leaning against an adult's leg. A worker cleans dust from tools beside a doorway. A woman folds cloth near a dim light. Outside, darkness returns once more. Stars appear slowly. The river becomes a dark ribbon under the sky. And in homes across Egypt, the cycle completes itself again. Work has shaped the day. Rest now shapes the night. And between them, life continues quietly, carried forward by the steady rhythm of ordinary labor beneath the endless stars. The night settles again over ancient Egypt with the same quiet patience it always carries. The river does not change its pace. It never has. It moves through darkness the way it moves through daylight, without hesitation, without concern for who is awake or asleep along its banks. Moonlight spreads softly across the water. It touches the reeds. It touches the edges of small wooden boats pulled ashore. It touches the roofs of homes made from mud and straw. Everything becomes still again. Inside those homes, sleep continues. Not deep in a way that feels distant, but close and familiar, as if rest itself is part of the land. People breathe slowly in the warm air that remains trapped inside clay walls. The sounds of the day have disappeared, leaving only the faintest movement of wind outside. A hand shifts slightly in sleep. A child curls closer to a parent. A clay jar rests quietly against the wall, holding tomorrow's water. The night in ancient Egypt is never truly empty. It is filled with quiet waiting. With preparation. With the promise of another morning that will arrive whether anyone is ready or not. Far beyond the village, the stars continue their slow journey across the sky. They are constant, reliable, patient. Workers who live beside the Nile know them well, even if they do not speak about them often. The sky becomes part of memory, part of routine, part of life itself. Time is not measured only by sunlight here. It is also measured by the return of certain stars, the position of certain constellations, the way the night sky shifts across the seasons. And so even in sleep, there is a sense of structure in the world above. The night passes. Not quickly. Not slowly. Just steadily, like everything else in this place. Then, once again, the faintest sign of morning appears. A pale line at the edge of the desert sky. It is barely noticeable at first. Just a soft change in darkness. A thinning of the night. But slowly, it grows. Birds begin to move in the reeds along the river. A distant sound of water being drawn from a well echoes briefly, then fades. Somewhere, a door opens. Another day begins to form. In a small home near the fields, a woman is already awake. She sits quietly for a moment before standing. The room around her is simple. Everything has a purpose. Nothing is extra. Her first task is familiar. It has no beginning that she remembers and no end she expects. It simply continues from one day to the next. She begins preparing food. Flour is measured. Water is added. Hands work slowly, carefully, shaping dough that will become bread for the household. The motions are steady, repetitive, comforting in their predictability. Outside, the sky brightens further. The darkness has almost fully retreated now. The river reflects a faint gray-blue light, soft and calm. The village begins to stir. Not suddenly. Not all at once. But in layers. One home becomes active. Then another. Then another. Smoke rises from small cooking fires. The smell of bread begins to return again, as it always does. The smell spreads through narrow streets and open courtyards, mixing with the scent of damp earth and morning air. A fisherman has already returned from the water. Or perhaps never fully left it? Some workers remain close to the river even during the night, sleeping in small boats or near the shore, ready to begin again as soon as light returns. He checks his nets carefully. The fibers are damp. The weight of water still clings to them. He works quietly, adjusting knots, preparing for another trip. There is no rush. There never is in the morning near the Nile. The river sets the pace, not the people. Farther inland, farmers are already walking toward their fields. The ground is cool beneath their feet. The air still carries the softness of early morning. For a short time, the world feels balanced between night and day. Between rest and labor. Between silence and movement. A man pauses at the edge of a field. He looks across the crops. This land is not his alone, but he tends it as if it is. Not ownership in the modern sense, but responsibility. A duty passed through families, through generations, through long memory. He adjusts the strap of a simple tool resting on his shoulder and begins walking forward. In another direction, a group of workers gathers near an irrigation channel. Water must be guided carefully again today. The channel is inspected first. Small repairs are made where soil has shifted during the night. Hands press earth back into place. The water waits patiently until it is directed again. Then it continues forward, as it always does. Not rushing. Not stopping. Just responding. Nearby, a potter is already working at his wheel. The workshop is still cool enough to feel comfortable, though that will not last. Clay is shaped beneath his hands, forming vessels that will travel into homes, storage rooms, kitchens, and marketplaces. Each vessel begins the same way. A simple lump of earth. And becomes something useful through repetition and skill. He does not think of it as transformation. He thinks of it as work. One motion at a time. One object at a time. Across the village, children begin their small morning tasks. Some carry water. Some sweep courtyards. Some simply follow older family members, watching and learning without being told to learn. A young boy watches a baker open an oven. Heat rises in a soft wave. Bread emerges, warm and golden. The boy does not speak. He only observes. This is how knowledge is passed here. Quietly. Repeatedly. Without formal instruction. By mid-morning, the sun strengthens again. Light becomes sharper. The air begins to warm. Shadows shorten as the day takes full control once more. Work becomes more deliberate. More measured. In the fields, farmers bend carefully over crops. In workshops, tools begin their steady rhythms again. In the marketplace, goods are arranged and exchanged. In homes, servants and family members continue their responsibilities without pause. Everything resumes its place in the larger pattern of life. A mason chips stone at a steady pace. The sound repeats across time. Tap. Pause. Tap. Pause. Not hurried. Not chaotic. Just consistent. Nearby, a weaver checks threads stretched across a wooden frame. Each line must remain tight and even. A single mistake can ripple through the entire pattern. Attention is constant. Even when the body grows tired, the hands continue remembering what to do. By midday, the heat arrives fully again. It settles across rooftops and fields. Across streets and courtyards. Across everything exposed to the sun. The world slows slightly, as it always does at this time. Workers seek shade wherever they can find it. Under trees. Under reed shelters. Along the shadowed sides of walls. A group gathers beneath a simple roof of woven reeds. They share food. Bread passed from hand to hand. Water from a shared jar. The meal is quiet. Not because there is nothing to say, but because the heat makes words feel unnecessary. Rest becomes the main activity. Even if only for a short time. A man leans his back against a post and breathes slowly. Another rests his forearms on his knees, eyes lowered. The pause is temporary, but important. After a while, movement returns. Slowly at first. Then steadily. The afternoon continues. In the distance, the river glints beneath the sun. Boats move along its surface carrying goods, people, and supplies. Everything depends on this waterway. Not only for travel. Not only for farming. But for connection. Between towns. Between workers. Between lives that might otherwise remain separate. As the afternoon begins to soften, a familiar shift appears again. The light changes. The intensity fades slightly. The air becomes less heavy. Workers notice before they speak about it. It is something felt more than seen. A change in the body. A release in breath. A sense that the day is slowly moving toward its end again. Farmers' tools are set down. Merchants begin closing containers. Craftsmen finish final tasks. The rhythm turns toward evening. On the river, a fisherman draws in his last net of the day. The water is calm. The catch is modest. As it often is. He does not seem disappointed. Only familiar with the pattern. He turns the boat toward shore. The movement is slow and steady. The river carries him gently back. As the sun lowers, the sky begins to shift again into warm colors. Gold. Orange. Soft red. The reflection spreads across the Nile, turning the water into something almost luminous. Villages prepare for evening. Cooking fires are lit once more. Smoke rises in thin, gentle lines. The smell of bread returns again, warm and steady. Families gather in courtyards and rooms. Meals are shared. Stories are spoken softly. The work of the day begins to settle into memory. Outside, darkness begins its return. Stars appear slowly, one by one. The river grows darker again, but never stops moving. And in homes across the land, workers of every kind settle into rest once more, carried gently by the same rhythm that has guided them through every day before this one, and every day still to come. Ending the history, the night over the Nile is quiet in a different way now. Not only because work has ended for the day, but because the mind itself begins to slow. The river continues its movement, but it no longer feels tied to time. It feels older than time, wider than memory. The stars remain above ancient Egypt, as they always have, unchanged in their distant light. They look down upon fields that have been planted and harvested again and again. Upon workshops where hands have shaped clay, wood, stone, and cloth through countless generations. Upon villages that rise each morning and settle each night in the same gentle rhythm. Everything returns to stillness. Not an empty stillness. A full one. A lived one. One shaped by effort, repetition, and quiet endurance. The workers of Egypt sleep now. Farmers whose bodies know the weight of soil and sun. Fishermen whose hands remember the pull of the river. Scribes whose minds have carried the careful lines of writing across long hours. Builders whose strength has lifted stone into lasting forms. Bakers, potters, weavers, servants, and countless others whose names were rarely written, but whose work filled every day of life along the Nile. Their world was not silent in the sense of being empty. It was silent in the sense of being steady. A steady rhythm of labor and rest. Of waking and sleeping. Of water rising and falling along the river banks. As the final hours of night deepen, even the wind seems softer. It moves through reeds without urgency. It passes over fields without changing them. It touches the walls of homes and continues onward. Nothing resists it. Nothing needs to. And in that quiet, there is a feeling that nothing is unfinished. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is continuing as it should. Dawn will come again. It always does. The river will reflect the light again. The fields will wake again. The hands of workers will return again to their tasks, as they have done for as long as memory can reach. But for now, there is only rest. Only breath. Only the slow movement of night across an ancient land. The Nile flows gently through darkness, carrying the reflection of a sky filled with distant stars. And beneath that sky, the world of ancient Egypt fades softly into sleep.